Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited about our guests today. Before I introduce you to them, here's a quote just for this episode. If you're not aware that you're not supposed to be able to do something, the barriers to doing it are dramatically lessened. Sam Zell, our guest today, has accomplished many things in their career, going from a handful of employees in '86 to hundreds into our current years. Author of an amazing book that I've been listening to on Audible called Blue Collar Cash. I think a mentor to many people in the current generations coming up, deciding are they going to pursue academia? Or are they going to pursue building wealth and success in other ways? They're an author, an entrepreneur, a mentor, and a new friend to the Culture Matters podcast, Ken Rusk, founder of Rusk Industries and Path to Successful Life courses. Thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast, Ken.
I appreciate it, Jay. Thanks for having me. That's great.
Now, did you set out thinking you were going to be this mentor early on, this teacher to people, or were you, did you find that later in life from creating all this success? Did you set out, when you were young, thinking you were going to do this?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. So what happened to me was when I started out with six people, we were in the ditch digging business. That's what we do. And, we've been doing it for 38 years. Well, when you grow a company from six people to 225 or more, you go through some folks on the way during that 3-decade, 4-decade pathway. And so I became an almost involuntary life coach, if you will. I have no training, no college, no degree, no letters after my name. So it was all about how can I convince people that they can build an amazing life through and around the ditch digging industry, which is something that is a difficult sell. And so, helping people with their first car, their first apartment, their first checking account, their first credit card, cleaning up their driver's license, all those kinds of things, Jay, started out very early and just built into this coaching scenario where now, we're getting people into their third and fourth house, into investment properties, and taking in European vacations, and just trying to make the goal sets bigger and bigger and make the chase and the anticipation stronger and stronger. So it has been a hell of a ride, that's for sure.
If I was going to build the worst ditch, what would I need to be doing? I'm curious.
Well, you would make it so the water came back at you when it filled up. Instead of running away from you, it would come back at you. So that would be a bad ditch right there.
Yeah, digging ditches. What has that taught you about leadership? Because it seems like there's almost like a stoic element to it. Like, I envision this, like a story.
Well, yeah, the thing about creating ditches is you're creating pathways. That's what you're doing constantly. And for me, you can't vary from the ditch. You have to stay focused on what you're doing. You can't just start, going all over the place with anything. And it's the same way with life. Jay, when you start visualizing things you want to come into your life, they have to be visions that are crystal clear and colorful and concise. And they have to be something that is so potent that you can't think of anything else. What that does is it allows you to remain laser focused, somewhat like a ditch. You're straight, you're down the line, you're pitching it to the right direction. And these are all things that really help you create the things that you want to come into your life. And I hate to use the word manifest because it's an overused word, but it really does work. When you look at something long enough, those things tend to show up. And that's what we teach here.
I don't want to offend anyone, but is there a beef between ditch diggers and grave diggers?
We've never really gotten in a fight at a bar, so I really don't know the answer
my
to
mind now. But
great question, though.
I just, or is it like offensive to say, you do little, what percentage of the portfolio is grave digging versus ditch digging?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Why is that? Because some may not have any exposure that is actually a business. I want to dive into that for a second because you clearly have created many careers out of this. So what exactly is the ditch digging business for the layperson that wants to wrap their head around that?
So you have a house and it gets rained on incessantly, right? Throughout the year. Well, you have to make sure that water gets away from the house. And you do that with a series of ditches, whether it's inside the basement or outside the basement or back in the yard or in the front in swales or whatever. You only have a few minutes to get that water safely away from the house before your ankles are wet, right? So yeah, we're basically in the foundation waterproofing business, but that requires us to do a lot of ditch digging on a nearly constant basis.
What do you get a lot of business in Florida? Is that one of the states?
No,
I asked
we're
because I was
we're
looking.
we're located in the Midwest. We're in Ohio, actually, on the western end of Lake Erie, a place called Toledo, a little town called Sylvania. But we service about 30 counties around us, and this is an area that gets wave after wave of storms, and we just have to protect houses from getting damaged that way.
What are some of the consequences if someone that is a homeowner is not proactive in that way?
Well, I mean, there's mold, there's mildew, there's breathing problems, there's allergies, there's rusting appliances, there's dry rotted wood, there's, just an overall unhealthy way to live. Plus, you got that space down there you're paying for. You might also turn it into a usable room because why pay interest, mortgage and taxes on that space and not use it? So
Uh,
you shouldn't have any, especially in this day and age, you shouldn't have any room in your house that you're not able to use. So
hmm.
we create the environment for you to be able to utilize those things fully.
Now, when you're bringing leaders up throughout your career, what would you say is some of the advice of like the don't do's? The opposite of the Ten Commandments for management. Listening to this for people that have employees and that have mentees. And I ask because you talk about Tim in your book, like one of the examples of people that has created a success and a life and a
Sure.
family from your tutelage, right? So, what are some of the don't do's if you're a leader? Would you say?
Well, first off, don't hold on to the ego of you being the owner, the manager, the boss. That's a fallacy. Okay. You may work 70 or 80 hours and you may beat your chest and go home and tell your wife or your husband, man, look at me. I worked all these hours. I solved all these problems. I fixed all these things. I yelled at these people. I repaired this. I motivated that. But I also have high blood pressure and diabetes and, heart disease. And, I made a few bucks, but my life, the quality of my life is terrible. So be very careful about how much you personally commit to your company because there's a little known secret. And I say this to my people all the time. I can't get what I want, nor can my company get what it wants or needs until all of you get what you want first. And that is an absolute truth that's been with me for 40 years. And I've watched it happen over and over and over again. The minute you think you know it all, do it all, want to be it all, and be that boss person, that's the minute you limit the growth of your company and harm yourself in the process. So really, really focus on letting go of, I have to be this owner boss person. And it's hard for people to do because the more you have entrepreneurs around you, the more your company will take off with or without your daily ability.
Mm. What was the first? Do you remember the first ditch?
I remember the very first ditch. Absolutely. It was on the west side of Toledo, Ohio, a small house. I think it was on Commonwealth Avenue. And Mrs. Perth, one of the two, but she was a very nice lady and she fed us lunch and that was a good day.
Wow. Now, the book, it starts off with your story.
Yes.
What would you say are some life like epiphanies or life scenarios that you think, looking back in hindsight, inspired you to be so successful? Because we have a lot of listeners that are in different stages of their life, right? Some of them might be in school, some of them might be either, after school, thinking, are they going to look back or go back to school? What would
Yeah, you're never the bully's victim unless you think you are. You know what I mean? I know that there's this thing about bullying in school and what have you. And I had that happen to me because I looked a little different with all these facial surgeries I had to have when I was younger. But honestly, the minute I found out that self-deprecating humor was a key to freedom for me, that changed my whole life. And as you read in the book, that the guy came up to me and tried to give me one more shot. And I just looked back and said, you know what? I agree with you. I am the scary monster. And all the girls looked at him and said, you are a jerk. And they looked at me and they went, wow, that was pretty brave of you to throw yourself out there like that. So you're never really the victim unless you really think you are, and there's always a way around it. So I would say that would be my first, real revelation from something like that.
Mm. What about the listener that's questioning, like maybe they're in college right now and they're not sure why they're even there, how they ended up there, and they're contemplating, going in another direction? What options do you think they have they might not have yet to recognize or think about?
Well, first off, you're not alone because 40% of people go to college without knowing why. Another
Uh,
25% of those people change their degree in the first year or two, which is another waste of time. And the biggest and the most important stat and the scariest one is this. As of today, only 35% of degrees ever get used ever. Think about that. So, 6.5 out of 10 people get a degree and never use it. So I would say that if it's truly your calling to do something with your hands, be it a carpenter, a plumber, electrician, a welder, an artist, a baker, a hairdresser, whatever, go do that, because that is truly, at least at this stage of the game, because these people are less and less and less available. You're going to take advantage of the good old father supply and demand, which is where supply is low and demand is high. That's where the money goes. So if you're in college and you feel like you're just going nowhere and you're only there because your parents told you had to go, or some wayward teacher gave you the wrong advice, get out, do what you want to do. There's people like me who will hire you in a second. There's thousands of people like me that will hire you in a second, and you'll be making six figures before you know it.
what character trait attributes would you say are hireable even without the degree or the designation?
Well, look at it this way. So I think every one of us has the ability to be an entrepreneur, or at the very least an entrepreneur. Okay. And you need things like persistence, resilience, faith, courage, humility, vision, initiative, all those things, generosity, all those things are, I think, incumbent or built into all of us. All we need, Jay, is a reason for those things to come out. And 99% of the time, that reason is a vision that I have for myself for the future.
Mm.
Because, I am sure that I can't guess your favorite color right now, nor I can't guess your favorite car, your favorite house, your favorite vacation, your favorite sport, hobby, charity moment. I couldn't guess any of those things because I don't know you, but you know them, and nobody else really does unless you've shared that. So
Mm.
why wouldn't you take the power of your own ability to visualize your perfect life, what I call comfort, peace, and freedom in the book? Why wouldn't you take the power of doing that on your own, and rather than listen to the crowd tell you how you should live your life?
What's the comfort piece stand for?
Well, the comfort piece, you could easily think of, okay, I have my favorite pair of sweats on, or I'm sitting in my favorite couch or whatever. But comfort is really being comfortable with who you are. You know, there is a optimal version of you out there. You just have to figure out what it is and go find it, and then be happy with that. Because the first step to being to presenting yourself to the world in any kind of effective way is being happy with yourself. And I don't care what you're built like, who you are, whatever. There's an awesome version of you there. You just have to figure out what it is, and then be comfortable with that and move forward. Because
Mm.
you can't get to that next level if you're constantly doubting yourself, negative on yourself, talking bad about yourself. I mean, whatever. You have to be out there and say, and this came from my deformities when I was younger. Um, you have to say, okay, this is the best version of me. I'm going to find that version, and then that will lead me to the next version, or the
Wow.
next piece, which is peace, and then freedom, and those types of things beyond.
Where does mentorship fall in on that comfort piece? Discovering that, is that
Well, look at it this way. I don't remember I'm sure that you probably had a day where you jumped off the high dive for the first time ever, right? I walked up and down that ladder 10 times before I actually jumped. And the reason that is because the time that I actually, had the nerve to do it, I had four of my buddies sitting at the edge of the pool going, "You can do this. You can do this. Come on, go do it. Jump. Let's go." It's the same thing with working out. I mean, if there's someone at the gym waiting for you at 7:30, chances are you're going to be there. If you're going by yourself, chances are you might miss a few times. So it's no secret that sharing any goal that you have with someone that you love and trust and put faith in, someone who wants that goal as bad as you do, is a way more powerful way to obtain it than to try and take all these things on your own.
Hmm. Were you a reader or a self-development minded person early on in the beginning of founding your organization, or did that come later with time or
Well,
circumstance?
I read some things like, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People and
Mhm.
a lot of those smaller books, like not that, but things like, you know, Who Moved My Cheese and those kind of small business books, the ones you can grab and read and use that day. So I read a lot of those types of things, but really, I try to surround myself with people who were really going after things.
Hmm.
And if you don't have a group of people around you that are chasing something individually for themselves, it's a much longer day. So I found that because I couldn't do it all myself, I wanted to surround myself with as many entrepreneurs as I could. And you inspire each other, and you come up with ideas, and your company gets way bigger than you can do it yourself. I can promise you that.
What was there a moment where there was an inflection point, like the leap between 100 and 200 people that are relying on you, or 50 to 100?
Yeah, there was. I took what I considered some core entrepreneurial candidates that I had here, and I had them come into my conference room, and I gave them all a small piece of paper and a pencil, and I said, I want you to write down how far you think this company could go this year in volume, in sales volume. And I want you to know before you write it down that if we do obtain that number, I'm going to share some of that growth with you personally, financially. And so all their eyebrows went up, and they all wrote down their numbers, and they slid them over to me. And I read all their numbers, and wouldn't you know it, all of their numbers were about $1 or $2 higher than my number was.
Wow.
So be careful that you are not your own worst ceiling. And in this case, I did that. I put that program out. They killed it. It was almost like, thanks for the program, Ken. Now get out of the way and let us do it. And it turned out great. And we haven't looked back since. I mean, we've been growing every year, and it's because these people work for themselves first and for me second in a way.
Hmm.
Okay. As long as they're gaining on their own life, as long as they're saying, wow, I can get what I want for myself with and through this company, then I'm going to win eventually at the end anyway. So
Does that tie to what you said earlier about someone listening to this having a clear or a vision of what they actually want to accomplish?
yeah, you can't be an entrepreneurial candidate here unless you have a very clear picture of what your future looks like, and you have a stated goal on the wall that you're working on at this very moment, a goal that is documented with begin dates, end dates, all the steps in between, the dollar amounts, the fact that you've told the payroll clerk to subtract that from your check every Friday, the automatic process, all those things. These are ways that you can ensure that your goal goes from an if goal to only a when goal, meaning it's certain that way.
Why is it important to write it down in that way?
So there's these things that live in your head called hopes, dreams, and wishes. And the reason they call them that is because they stay in your head forever. Until you create a pathway, hopes, dreams, and wishes will always stay hopes, dreams, and wishes. Without a pathway, nothing happens. So when you take that goal and you find it, when you break it down in enough detail that you've created a pathway, you've taken that goal out of your head and you put it down on paper, and that physical transition is what takes this thing from a if to a when. That physical transition is what takes you to the point of, okay, this is going to happen for sure now. All I have to do is wake up and breathe, and this is going to happen. And I think that's where people fail, because they never create the pathway. So things always live in someday I'm going to do this, instead of today I'm going to do this, or yesterday I've already done it.
Hmm. What about what have you recognized in the like accountability of other people? Because my guess would be that other people now see what people say they're going to do.
Well, there's a
Is there
reason
an
that there
accountability aspect?
Yeah, there's a reason that these boards, these goal boards we have in the office are hanging between the two bathrooms. Okay.
Wow.
People see them multiple times a day. And it would be nothing to hear somebody high-fiving somebody else. Hey, I see you just got your new car. Well done. Or wow, you're leaving for Europe next month. That's awesome. Or how's your Spanish lessons coming? Or whatever it might be. It's really nice to see them, their peers sharing these things with each other, because that then fuels your desire and ability to do this more and more and more, to the point where now you might have multiple goals happening at the same time.
What's the response been to blue collar cash? Like, are you finding that people, were you surprised by the response? Like or
Well, two things. Number one, the book was originally not titled Blue Collar Cash. My publisher titled it Blue Collar Cash. And what I mean, it's done well. It became a bestseller, and I'm wholly grateful for that. One of the things that happened is when people read it, they realize it's not so much about blue collar jobs as it is learning how to think in vision, learning how to use the visual side of your head, and learning how to rely upon yourself like a blue collar worker does. So that in that case, it was a little, maybe a little off the title, but I've loved the fact that people go, wow, you have reconnected me with who I'm supposed to be for myself. I'm now off the treadmill of what everybody else wants me to do. My parents, my teachers, my guidance counselors, my whoever. Even if you're 50 years old, I'm out of this stupid sales job. I hate it. I wanted to go back to becoming a furniture builder, and I did that, and I'm loving my life now. So the fact that it's gotten people to say, I'm now in control of who I am going forward, is probably the biggest compliment I've received, and I've received that a lot. So.
that seems like there's a philosophy behind the idea of blue collar that even in our culture today is changing, or it seems like, right, there's a philosophy that comes with blue collar, hard
Well,
work. Those are some of the biases that I
yeah,
have about like
yeah,
hard
there are
work.
some stigmas and that kind of thing. However, blue collar work is way better now than it's ever been because of the access to technology, the different tools. I mean, you're not swinging hammers anymore. You know what I mean? You're using nail guns with 50 nails ready to just slam into those 2x4s. So it's a lot easier. I don't want to say easier, but it's a lot more effective. Your day's a lot better now. So, um, and what people don't understand is that's where all the money is. I mean, you've got
Wow.
carpenters, plumbers, electricians making 100, 150, $200,000 a year. You've got pipe fitters making $80 an hour. It's crazy the money that's out there, and it's only because of this supply and demand curve. And
Huh.
it ain't going away anytime soon, Jay, because people are still, they're still living under the idea that I have to go to college or I'm going to be a loser. Okay. They're still living under the idea that the best way for me to spend my time is with one of these things rather than
Mm.
getting outside and planting a tree or building a tree fort or whatever you might do as a kid.
Mm.
So until that changes, this problem will persist. But that's great news for somebody who's willing to be a contrarian thinker and say, well, if everybody's going that way, I'm going to go this way, because what people aren't doing for a living is where all the money is.
Have you
So,
found that younger people are surprised when they hear about this?
um, a lot of people say I've been hoodwinked. Okay, I was led down the wrong path by, again, you know,
Wow.
what some people don't realize, Jay, is there are high schools out there that get bonus money by how many college kids they produce. I mean, think of how sad that is. I mean, if you look at it right now, 50% of the country, of the 165 million people working today, 50% of them still do something with their hands. And yet we're trying to shove all 100% of our future kids into college. That is a recipe for disaster. And that's what we're seeing now. So the few
Wow.
people that are thinking, it might be cool to own my own business. It might be cool to own a bakery shop or a flower shop, or it might be cool to be my own plumber, and have a small crew of guys. Those are the people that are killing it. And it's like the best kept secret, but it's starting to turn a little bit now.
Oh,
So
I want to make sure I follow you. So, in one sense, because of technological advancement, it's not, it's
not as grueling as
some
it
of
used
the,
to be.
yeah, grueling, or like
Right.
at the same time, because of the culture changing. There's less supply, high demand. So that increases the potential earning power of people moving in that direction.
Well, yeah, I mean, take a guy with a wheelbarrow in his hand, and he's moving wheelbarrows for the mulch or dirt, right? Now take another guy sitting right next to him with a bobcat, okay, and
Yeah.
he's moving 10 wheelbarrows at a time. So that's one way that landscaping has become a way better place to be, because you can do way more work. You could do the work of 10 guys with one guy, and you can charge for the work of 10 guys for one guy. And so you can make a lot more money doing some of these things. And the same thing goes with plumbing and electrical work and, carpentry and all that other stuff. So there are things now technologically that make some of the grueling parts, parts of the past. So you can take these jobs on now and make, a heck of a lot of money, have a great future, and you control your input, you control your output, the quality of that output, you control your day, your time, your schedule, you control your financial gain. You can't get that sitting in the 15th floor in some cubicle somewhere wondering what your next thing is going to be. So,
And I would think it would be less expensive to go to those types of trade schools.
well, they are. Not only are they less expensive, but they're a lot less lengthy in time. Okay. And you can also do it just the old fashioned way. You get out of school, you go work for a guy who has his own company, you learn the ropes, and you retire him, take over his company, and go. There are so many companies. I know 5 companies right here in my hometown where the guy's ready to retire. He's making 150, 250, 300,000 a year, and he has no one to leave these companies to.
Wow.
It's crazy. So, if you get that one kid, okay, with a gleam in his or her eye and a firm handshake that says, you know what, I'm going to take a role on that, they could have a great career in just a few short years and retire some of these owners and make something happen for themselves.
On your website, I was looking through your curriculum. You have modules. What was the inspiration behind that, and what's the focus?
Well, the book became a bestseller, and it's sold thousands and thousands of copies, and that's really great. I love
Wow.
it. My issue with any book, even my own, is that if you read a book and then put it up on the shelf and then you don't take action from it, I'm not going to say you wasted your time, but you didn't use the book to its fullest, utility, right? So I built this course which forces you to take the book and to change your life. And I can tell you that everybody that's taken this course, and it's 8 sessions, they're 45 minutes a session. It's like nothing. You can do it in a weekend. Everyone that's taken this course has come back to me and said, wow, I can't believe how simple what you're saying is, and yet no one's teaching us this stuff. I can't believe how simple it is to implement what you're saying, and yet nobody's doing it. I can't believe how easy it is to plan your future, and yet no one ever taught me how to do it. So it's just that easy. So I wanted to build, and by the way, I priced the course at $179. There are
Wow.
courses out there for $3,000. No, that's not what this is about. My life was really good before I wrote the book, and I donate most of the money to local charities to help them get the access to this information. So yeah, $179, you get a free book, and you will I guarantee you will change your life as soon as you're done.
What would you say? I'm a listener. What are some of the problems that I'm facing today? If you could list them out, that going through those 8 modules would likely help me with.
Number one is you don't even realize what emotions are holding you back. Nobody realizes this. I mean, everyone I've talked to, they're like, oh my God, I've been owning this, and why am I hanging on to that? That's so dumb. Emotions are a choice. People think they're born with these things. Baloney. Emotions are a choice that you make on a daily basis. So first off, you're going to clear your head. Secondly, you're going to learn how to draw like you did when you were 5 years old. A box of Crayola crayons and a poster board. You're going to get back to your most creative time in your life when you had the least amount of stress. And you're going to find ways to start to picture what you want your life to look like. Jay, if I gave you a 1,000-piece puzzle and I dumped it on the table, and then I took the box away, you'd have no chance of building that puzzle, because you're like, well, what's the picture? What is it? Is it a landscape? Is it a sunset? What is it? You could probably
Wow.
build it. It might take you 10 years, but you might eventually get there. But if I show you the puzzle box with the picture on the front, you're going to stare at that puzzle box 1,000 times before you're done doing that puzzle. What I'm saying is stare at your future life 1,000 times while you're building it, because then and only then will it start to show it and come into your life. And that's where people make the biggest mistake.
Wow. That's powerful. You talk about philanthropy in your book, and you mentioned generosity earlier, like a attribute. Why give? What's the value in giving, in your view?
So here's the thing about giving. I think it's incumbent upon anyone who is successful to share some of their gifts with the world. Let's get that right off the bat.
Hmm.
I will also say this. You are never supposed to give because you want to get something, which is why when you go to some of these auctions, these charity auctions, and you give $3,000, but you get a trip to Mexico from it, I mean, you're not really giving, okay?
Yeah,
You're
good
kind
point.
of giving, but you're not really giving. So I will say this, though. The more we give here at our company, and we do a lot, the more we just seem to be blessed. Okay. So I'm never going to
Wow.
say give to get. In fact, in the title, I wrote give, get, and give again.
Hmm.
But somehow, if you become a very generous person, karma bestows itself upon you. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And it's a wonderful thing to get you and your team to do. I mean, you can take $70, Jay, go to the grocery store, go to Ronald McDonald House, take 7 people with you, spend the next 2 hours building lasagna and salad and garlic bread and meatballs, and you build this beautiful dinner, you wrap it all up, you put it in the refrigerator, and you drive away. And the child with cancer who's in the hospital, whose parents are now living at Ronald McDonald House because they're waiting during his treatment or her treatment, they're going to go have that meal that night, and they are going to love it. And the 7 of you built it. You got no credit for it whatsoever. But you know what? There's just this feeling that $70 went miles. Okay.
Hmm.
And that's just one example of how you can give as a group. There's hundreds of them. And I would encourage any organization to go try one of these things, because it changes your people, because they won't do this on their own. Okay. Maybe they'll do a little bit on their own, but as a group, it's a very powerful thing.
Wow. What do you say to the person that just says, "Ah, I want to, but I don't feel like I have enough to give."
Well, then that's the power of the group. Okay. Because you start getting a group of people together. We did this thing just a few weeks ago where we had 20 people in a room, assembly line. We built 250 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in 22 minutes. Okay. It is an absolute blast. You're slapping peanut butter, you're making jelly, you're building these little lunches, brown bag, couple of snacks,
Wow.
napkin, and then this company comes up and they come to your office and they pick them up and then they distribute them to the homeless. Okay. And it's just a cool thing. You're in there, you got the music going, and you're just doing these things that are good for you, for society in general overall. It just creates a different form of culture in your office. And in my opinion, generosity is definitely as important as persistence and resilience and faith and courage and humility and initiative and all those other ones. So,
Yeah, you mentioned culture. What's your take on culture in the workplace? How do you define it, or how would you demonstrate its value, or what
well,
does it work?
yeah, great question. So getting back to, I can't get what I want before anyone else gets what they want first. That's the first thing you have to, letting go of your ego is the second thing you have to do. But I would say this, I had to work on culture before culture was cool. And the reason I did is because we're all ditch diggers. I had to try to motivate people and keep people loyal and keep them coming back, 30 years ago. And now people are going, oh man, I got to work on this culture thing now. I have to care about my employees. I'm like, dude, I've been doing that for 38 years.
Wow.
Okay. So to me, why would you not want an environment where you come to work every day and it's kind of a fun place to be? Why would you not want to recognize people? Why would you not want to, put people up in lights? Why would you not want to celebrate their wins? Why would you not want to share in the joy of someone having their first child or getting their first home or going to their first vacation? Why would you not want to be involved in all of that? When you hire people, Jay, you're supposed to hire all of them,
Hmm.
not just the 1/3 of them that is the workday. There's three 8-hour periods.
Wow.
There's the working 8 hours, the sleeping 8 hours, and the whatever they do in their spare time 8 hours. I want to know all of that because I want to hire the whole person. Only then can I really develop a familiar, a family-like relationship with them, and watch them succeed and have them hang around and just get the joy of seeing that happen firsthand.
So would you say that you genuinely have cared about your people?
Well, I think you have to. I mean, especially in this day and age. It used to be you could put an ad in the paper, and next day there'd be 15 people sitting in your foyer, and you could sit there and go, "Well, why should I hire you? I'm this big bossy guy, and you're the job seeker. Impress me, son." Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's gone. Now people walk into your foyer and they look at you and they go, "Dude, what's in it for me to work here?" You know what I mean? So you have to be ready to answer that question. And if you can, now you got something. Okay. Let me show you what's in it for you to work here. And that's part of the culture. I'm going to make sure that your retirement is set from day one. I'm going to make sure you have goals. I'm going to make sure you achieve those goals. I'm going to make sure you have a fun, energetic, colorful, music-filled environment. I'm going to make sure I take care of your health and your nutrition. I'm going to do a lot of these things to help you create the best version of you possible. And if they truly believe that, and they do, the
Hmm.
more you repeat it and you show it, they do, you have a whole different set of folks inside your building. I mean, these are not people that walk around going, "Woe is me, I can't wait to look for another job."
What about building like loyal customers, the building relationships with customers? What advice do you have for our audience?
Well, if you have a very solid, happy crew of people, they tend to want to make other people happy and deliver. Okay. So for us, I mean, we have 22,000 customers and we have a 4.8 rating on Google on our way to a 4.9. That is impossible to do. Okay. And it's only because to the credit of the folks that work in this building, they know that their lives are improving every single day. So they want to help other people improve their lives. And I know it sounds altruistic, but they really want to deliver a good product for people. And they pride themselves on that feedback. Okay. Part of that feedback helps them further their financial gain. So, I mean, they know that if I make happy customers, I'm going to have more customers here, creates more jobs, more positions,
Mhm.
more upward mobility, and then everyone goes home happy that way. So, yeah, it's a pretty powerful mechanism actually.
What would you say is the importance of attitude at work? Like,
Well, again, you have to create attitude. I mean, I think you have to create an environment where attitude, it just kind of happens. It thrives. You can't, you know, if your place feels like a library or a morgue, you're going to get that. If we have people here that have their own playlist, they're in charge of the music. We're constantly recognizing people. We're constantly talking about anniversaries, birth dates, child's birth dates, you know,
hmm,
those types of things. We're constantly during, there's food happening here all the time. Um, and people are involved in all that. And again, there's a lot of different bonus plans and a lot of different things that they can control their own money. So it's just an environment for people to thrive in. If you can't thrive within that type of environment, you kind of work yourself out quickly because you're just one of those people who, you know, you just want to live in that negativity. And that doesn't last very long around here. I mean, people see that, they start to, you're just kind of worked out of the picture. So I think it's very important, but it comes from everybody. It starts with maybe me as an owner, boss, or whatever you want to call me, but it really comes from their peers, because I can say something and they may or may not believe it. Their peers say something and they do.
Wow. Hmm. What have you learned from this writing a book and becoming a mentor to so many people? What have you learned about yourself over the last 2 years?
I learned that it's really important to give back beyond even these four walls. I mean, I learned it's really important to help other people grow. I was an entrepreneur, and I struggled like everybody else for years trying to figure it out. If I can help an entrepreneur coming up behind me shorten that learning curve, that's what I want to do. I think we should all learn how to do that. I mean, if we're given a gift, you got to share it. Okay. And that happens every day here. If my success is seeing other people become successful, I'm going to have success in the end anyway. You know what I mean? Because of that, as a result of that. So my happy time is coming to work and seeing somebody achieve one of their goals. In fact, I'm going to go down the hallway and celebrate one as soon as I'm done with you. So
Wow. Well, we talked about the was it an if to a when, right? So having that vision or getting more clear on what one is seeking or desiring, so it's not just a hope. What about the work in between? What are your thoughts or advice around sacrifice, commitment, the road, the path, like hard work, like that path in between? What does it take to be successful, would you say?
well, at the end of the day, you're basically trading your labor or your skill for something that you want to come into your life, right? I mean, you're not working for dollars, you're working for what those dollars can get you, right? So when you see a bunch of goals on the wall and they're all live, and you see that this person is halfway through, this person's a quarter of the way through, this person's three-quarters of the way through, you can see an enormous amount of confidence building in those people. And I can tell you that, like, I had one a very long time ago. This gal came in, she saw me working a goal with another guy on the board, and she said, wow, that's really cool. Someday I'm going to do that. Okay. She was the inspiration for the chapter someday versus today in the book that you'll read as you see it come up. But anyways, one of the things that she said was, you know, I don't know if I have a goal. And I said, well, let's think of one. And she said, well, my father loaned me $2,500 for this car a couple of years back, and I never paid him back. He didn't want me to, but I feel bad because he doesn't have a lot of money. And I said, well, can you afford $48 a week? And she said, well, yeah, probably. And I said, okay, in a year, you'll have him paid off. Well, she looked at me like I just invented penicillin. Okay.
Wow.
um, but that wasn't the point. The point is, 6 weeks in, she was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a month and a half in already. 6 months in, she was like, wow, I can't believe I'm halfway there. And you can see this confidence start to come out of this young lady. Well, now, since then, she has bought her first house. She's bought her second house. She's planned her wedding. She's bought her first used car. I mean, her first new car. And you can just see the confidence of her wanting to do this over and over and over again. So I will say the time between you start the goal and you end the goal, you could consider that laborious because it's a long time, or you could say
Hmm.
every week that I'm here is another week closer. And now I'm so confident it's going to happen that I feel like I'm this leveled up person, if so to speak.
Like there's a relationship between thinking in the future, writing it down, saying it, and the productivity increasing. Someone's productivity actually increasing, you're saying.
Yeah, because people don't understand that once the goal is really in action, it's like happening, and it doesn't require them to constantly fret over it because time is passing and it's happening. So you lose that what if. You lose that if, and you know it's now only a when. There's a major seismic shift between if I'm going to do this and when it's going to happen. Okay, because again, I remember like throwing baseballs to my daughter when she was playing softball. At some point I told her, I said, I want you to hit the ball down first base. And how would you do that? And she said, well, I would probably have to come in late with the bat. Fine. Now I want you to hit it down third base. What would you do? well, I'd have to come in early and hit it down third base. I'm like, right. So we started doing that, first base, third base, first base, third. You know what she forgot about? If she was going to hit the ball.
Mm.
She focused on where it was going to go instead of if she was going to even hit it. So it's the same thing with this. You take a goal and you flip it from an if to a when. It's a whole nother way of thinking about it.
Mm. The the alumni or the students, do you gather everyone together, or is that something that's a vision at some point for all of your students?
Yeah, we have we celebrate everybody's goal as a group. We celebrate people starting a new goal. Okay. Those are all announced, those are all put out, those are celebrated. And we list every goal that was achieved at our annual year-end holiday party. So we
Wow,
talk about every single one of them. And sometimes there's 40 or 50 of them that we have to list off, but that's okay. People stand up, everyone claps for them. It's just, if you're going to do anything, Jay, you might as well be good at it, and it might as well be producing for you. It might as well, if you're going to spend your time doing anything, because time is valuable, we all know that. You might as well be winning along the way.
would you write another book?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm in the process of writing another book now, and this book was for like the end user, okay, a 15 to 50-year-old who is trying to figure out what they want their life to look like. The new book is the opposite side of that. So, people would say, well, Ken, you know what? My boss is a blank. You're a cool boss. You must be a cool boss. And I thought, well, I'm really not a cool boss. I just have a couple things figured out, right? So I decided to write a book called Cool Boss: How to Find One, Be One, or Change the One You Have. And it'll be out in about 6 months, hopefully. I'm about halfway done. And it just,
Wow,
it's for people out there that want to create an awesome culture, but they just don't know how. So
that's
hopefully,
awesome.
yeah, hopefully it'll be out in 6 months and we'll go from there.
How about the podcast? Do you have a podcast, or are you starting a podcast?
I do. It's interesting because the show that I'm on with you right now is like number 270 for me in the past year and a half.
Whoa,
So
that's amazing.
I've been at it pretty good. I have one of my own. I'm only like 25 or 30 episodes in, and it's fun. I'm kind of picky about who I have on because of the time frame that it takes to do that. And I enjoy talking to folks like you to help really spread the word anyway. So it's been a good thing. It's been cathartic, that's for sure.
A lot of our listeners, they desire to be in this position, to be on shows. And what advice would you have? Because that's an impressive amount that you've been a guest on in such a short period of time. What advice do you have on how to show up, how to prepare, how to make that happen?
Well, first off, I think you need to have something that when yourself asks me a question, you need to have something that you think the user is going to walk away with. You've asked me probably 15 or 20 questions so far, and I hope that at least one thing someone said, you know what, I'm going to use that this afternoon. I'm not going to wait till next month or next season or next quarter or whatever. I'm going to use that today. So I think you have to have something that people really can use. And it doesn't help that I've hired 2,500 people in my career and interviewed a bunch and trained a whole bunch of people. I mean, those are all obviously credentials for me, but I think no matter what, I mean, having something that people can take away that day is really important.
Were you a 5 day a week guy, 7 day a week? What's your 4 days? What's your philosophy of how to build a company over 30? It's almost 39 years, and keep consistent with it. How do you balance?
Yeah,
Or
it was 5 days a week, and I did that on purpose because I was not gonna imbalance the rest of my life. I mean, I still like to play golf. I like to work out. I like to hang out with my daughter, my wife. I like to go boating or whatever. So I knew for a fact that I was going to build the company in such a way that I wasn't going to be that 70-year-old diabetic heart problem guy. You know what I mean? I was going to be someone who could no doubt balance the buckets that we all have to balance every day. Things like emotions and health and hobby and family and your homestead and all those types of things. So I want to make sure that I could still balance all that. So I mean, did I ever go in on a Saturday when something went wrong? Sure, I did, but I tried like hell not to do that because I wanted people to grow around me to be able to handle those things.
Were you an early to rise person, or did what?
In the beginning, I was, because I was looking for people to put into positions that required early. Like our company is open from 6 in the morning till 9, 8 or 9 at night. But
Wow.
so there were times when I was in early and stayed late, but only until I could find the people to do those things, because I believe that the right person needs to be in the right chair.
Hmm.
If you put the right person in the wrong chair or the wrong person in the right chair, you're not going to get anywhere. So I wanted people to put that I could put in places that I knew would really develop those areas of expertise. And yeah, it took a little bit, but it worked out well.
Last question. If there's one thing that you want our audience to take away, a theme, right, of I almost said gravedigger, of the ditch digging philosophy, what would that be?
I would just say this. Okay. Stop listening to everybody else. You and only you know what your favorite color is. You and only you know what your favorite car is, your favorite vacation, your favorite house might be. You and only you know what your favorite sports thing would be, your favorite dog or cat. What color, what would you name it? Okay. So stop listening to all the noise of everybody else trying to tell you how to live your life. Go find a very quiet place. If you can afford to buy my course, buy the course. Okay. Go find a very quiet place. Start drawing what you want your life to look like. Break those things down into simple pieces and pathways, and then start living it, because no one is going to do it for you, and no one cares about your life as much as you do. I promise you that.
Ken, thank you so much. If you listen to this episode, follow Ken. I'm listening to the book right now, Blue Collar Cash. Buy it on Audible. And check out the website, right? kenrusk.com, KENRUSK.com. Invest in the course, invest in yourself. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time.